Hello, hello, hello. How is everyone doing? It's the day before my birthday, and I know I'm going a little bit earlier today, and that's because I have to be out of here at a certain time because I am filming an episode for Access Hollywood, and we're going to be speaking about Quiet on Set, and so I have to go over to Universal Studios and record that, but I wanted to make sure that I went live today, especially since yesterday I had to take the day off because I was doing, a podcast, and that was pretty much the entire day. And so I'm so happy though to be here. I honestly missed everyone yesterday. It was kind of strange to be doing a 2-hour interview without the community. I'm so used to talking here and being with everyone that it was kind of strange not to have you guys there. So I'm happy to be here, and thank you so much for the birthday wishes. I'm turning 32. And I've honestly had no time really to really even realize that it's my birthday tomorrow. I barely planned it. I'm going to dinner with a bunch of close friends, and I'm really looking forward to that. I feel like last year too, I didn't really plan. When you're a mom, you're more focused on the kids. Like, even when people were asking me, what I wanted for my birthday, I was like, get me, a gift card. Cause I'm like, I'm probably going to get something for Nova, or I'm probably going to get something for Truth. I'm not even thinking about myself anymore. So if there's any parents out there, I'm sure you can relate. I'm like, I don't need anything, but maybe Nova and Truth do. Like the other day I got Truth a little bouncer, and he's standing now. It's so cute. He's already, oh God, he's going to be 8 months old this month. And it's interesting because I can always track how long, the show on YouTube has been running for by how old Truth is. Because Truth is the exact same age as this channel, honestly. So, oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's so nice to see everyone here. Wow, there is a lot going on, by the way. And by the way, Disney is next. I know a lot of people, when they watch Quiet on Set and we're learning a lot about Nickelodeon and Dan Schneider, I got a lot of messages about, like, what about Disney? And, what about Disney? And I've been kind of, digging around, learning things about, Disney's past. And I just want to give a shout out today to, I think it's Moa Rambles. Moa Rambles has been working on an incredible web, doing incredible investigative journalism, honestly, and putting everything together. And it's so impressive. I just want us all to give a round of applause to Moa, because honestly, I'm pretty blown away by watching, this person put together this web of the den. Yeah, there we go. It's so impressive. It's so impressive. It's really so impressive. Woo, woo, woo! I'm like hyped from this web, to be honest with you, because, this journey that I have personally been on is me realizing how these institutions cover up. And these individual rotten apples that these institutions love to just go, oh, it's just another rotten apple, but it's not us. These rotten apples will always roll on through because they can. But if the institution isn't protecting them and enabling their behavior, and creating essentially a safe haven for them, then they don't really stand a chance. And these individuals look for places that feel safe to them, for them. That's what they're looking for. And they test everyone's boundaries. They test everyone's boundaries, and they're looking for places that they can just honestly do what they please. And for me personally, you know, I've learned that we can sit here all day and point at the rotten apples. But really, we must start putting pressure and pointing at these institutions that are enabling them, conscious or not, enabling them, because they won't get access to their prey if they don't have this type of protection, this safe haven. So, you know, that's really the heart of all of this, is trying to remove the safe havens for these individuals, because I've learned that's honestly, sadly, the only way. Or to get these safe havens to realize that it's more of a liability to keep them around than it is to remove them. And people like myself and many people out there within the industry, we always hear, we can't remove this person because it's a liability issue and they haven't been, you know, you've probably heard this before. And it's like, it's time for these institutions to understand that it's way more of a liability for you to keep them around. And it's the truth. And hopefully they're starting to learn that. And the only way they honestly learn that is by people coming forward, people sharing their stories, having bystanders share their stories. And we're going to get into a bystander's story today, which Quiet, I mean, it was kind of shocking last night, ended up finding a person who was a crew member who worked on Boy Meets World and worked on the Amanda Bynes show, and came forward, I guess, in a Facebook group that is for crew members to talk about their experiences or share information. And she came forward in the group and talked about her experience with Brian Peck. And I've been talking to her for, you know, the last couple of hours. And it's very disappointing what I'm hearing, because this is the thing. People go, well, why didn't anyone say anything? People were. And then people say, why weren't the parents saying anything? The parents were. But there were these blockades, corporate, to be precise, corporate blockades that got in their way of being able to protect the people. And so we're going to start this episode today going into what this incredibly brave crew member had to say. And her name is Didi DeStefano. And I'm guessing she was a production manager on Boy Meets World. And also, this was so sad this morning, because I woke up and you know, she was first telling me it was the first AD and the second AD that she went to. To say Brian Peck is up to his same tricks again that I've seen. He's doing the same thing and it's not good. And she did the right thing. She said first AD and second AD. And of course I had to ask, who was the first AD and the second AD? that you went to at Nickelodeon. And just remember, I just really want to remind everyone before I even announce who the first AD was and who the second AD was, is that she was never brought back. She was never brought back. The good people are never brought back when they speak up for others. The ones who are trying to protect people get punished, and they never get brought back. And you have to understand the message that sends to all of the other crew members, right? All the other bystanders, is that they're learning that if they speak up, they lose their job. And these are people that are reliant on their job. They have bills to pay. They have bills to pay. They're just making it through like everyone else. And the more that they learn, if you speak up for others, you don't have a job anymore, what do you think happens? People just stop speaking up. And that's what these institutions do. That's what these corporations do best, I guess, is they send a message that if you try to protect anyone, you never work again. You go up against us, you never work again. And it's been happening for far too long. And so when I asked her who was the first AD and the second AD, that was last night. And this morning I saw that I had a DM and I braced myself. And I had to learn that one of the people I knew was going to be her. But the other person was somebody who I really liked on Zoe 101, who was an AD. He was like the nicest one on set. I don't even think he did that many episodes, but he was someone who I really liked. And he was always really nice to everyone. And to learn that it was Steve, the second AD, who everyone loved, got this complaint and didn't do anything about it, didn't protect the children, didn't protect the victim, obviously now that has come forward against Brian Peck. But guess who the first person was? The first AD. Beth Correll. The one who wrote the letter defending Brian Peck. 2 letters, to be exact. And even mentioned, Drake Bell's name, said he was fine. He's going to be okay. Because Beth knows best, right? Beth knew best so much so that she knew about complaints about Brian Peck, not only just from Drake Bell's dad, but from someone else who was working on set and who worked on another set prior to that set. And it was Disney, by the way. And it was Boy Meets World. And we all know, I think Rich Correll worked on Boy Meets World. Pretty positive. And so Rich and Beth have gotten now multiple complaints about Brian Peck and defended him. And, well, not only defended him, but never brought back the person who complained about Brian Peck. And then went so out of their way to write letters in defense of Brian Peck. And now they're apologizing. Oh my God, if we knew, you knew. You knew so much so that somebody else complained to you. Remember her, Didi? Yeah, she complained to you too, while looking out for the kids on set, the extras. And what did you do, Beth? You didn't bring her back anymore? And this is what I'm so tired of in this industry, is these people destroy people's lives Destroy them. And then they write this little PR sorry that's super scripted and managed. And they just go on their merry way. And they lie a little bit too. They lie a little bit too. They say things like, if I would have known all the details. Beth, in your letter, you knew enough details. We got it. You knew a little too much, by the way. Beth is Beth Correll, who wrote the letter in defense of Brian Peck, and her husband, Rich Correll. And they were both, well, Rich Correll's a very infamous, famous director of kids' TV shows, and Beth is his wife. And Beth was working on Drake and Josh and didn't tell Drake that she wrote a letter in defense of Brian Peck and was reporting to the judge to give a lesser sentence for Brian Peck because she was the spy. She was around Drake Bell all the time on Drake and Josh and saying that he was absolutely fine. Disgusting. And instead of apologizing privately to Drake Bell, which is the right thing to do, they gave like an exclusive. Now apologies are exclusive. Isn't that unbelievable? Apologies are exclusives now that you give to everyone else but the victim you harmed. That is gross. That you gave an apology exclusive after defending a PDF file. 2 times, 2 letters. And now we're learning from Didi that she came to you and told you that something was up with Brian Peck and that he was essentially dangerous. You knew enough, Beth. And instead, you're giving exclusive apologies to Variety and all these PMC companies, Jay Penske, instead of apologizing to the victim themselves. And this is now the new pattern is, oh, how do we get out of this behavior that was so awful? How do we get out of it and pretend that we didn't know everything? And we're seeing it even with Devin Werkheiser. I just watched the doc. Who cares, bro? I don't care if you just watched the doc. Nice try. I don't like when people insult people's intelligence. You know, I don't like that. I don't care if you just watched the documentary. You heard already about Drake Bell and what happened to him. You already knew. And that TikTok Live, for example, had a lot to do with Quiet on Set. And, you know, it's just, this is the den. This is Hollywood in a nutshell when it comes to enabling predatory behavior, actively protecting it. And then when people find out that they were doing it, they lie. They lie. And they protect themselves. I'm going to right now. Well, I don't want to show my private DMs, but I will show the what she posted. Oh, Beth Correll. Do people not know who I'm talking about? I'm pretty positive everyone in the chat I'm seeing knows who.
So many names at this point that I think people.
Okay, so Beth Correll.
We'll just pull up your Instagram.
I'm not. It's okay. I'm just gonna post this photo because it's so small on my Instagram. I want everyone to actually see this face. So this is Beth Correll, and Beth Correll was a protest sign at my Nickelodeon protest. So this is Beth. Beth was there to, you know, obviously look out for the children. She was an employee of Nickelodeon. She, you know, is the wife of Rich Correll, who is Leave It to Beaver, I'm pretty sure. Kind of a legacy, you know, when I don't know if you all saw in the documentary. I mean, everyone knows this. When Brian Peck was convicted, he ended up at Sweet Life of Zack and Cody on Disney. And who was the usual director at Sweet Life of Zack and Cody? Rich Correll. And Rich Correll wrote in his letter that it would be a pleasure to work with him again.
Her husband.
Her husband. Her husband, yeah. And so Rich Correll. And there's a couple episodes about it, so I'm not going to go into detail. You can go look at other episodes where I talk about who enabled, you know, Brian Peck, and you can look at my protest live and look at that. Here is Rich Correll. We can show my screen. This guy. Oh, God, they don't even let me do anything. This guy. Rich Correll. Everyone got it now? That's who it is. And so Rich was a director of the Amanda Bynes Show. Rich Correll knew Brian Peck obviously very well. He called him a friend. He called him professional. He acted like he could never imagine Brian Peck doing something like this, even though they got complaints about Brian Peck's behavior. And let's not forget that Brian Robbins and Kieran, what's her name? Fisher? Kieran Fisher, the vice president of Nickelodeon at the time. Those were two people that, you know, most likely Drake Bell's dad went to report that Brian Peck was acting in a specific way, predatory. And they gaslit Drake Bell's dad. And this is why someone like Brian Peck gets away with what they do. Because you got people like Beth. You got people like freaking Rich. You got people like, who's another person? Dan Schneider, honestly. Because Dan Schneider wants to say that, oh, I didn't hire Brian Peck. I'm so exhausted by these people. I didn't hire Brian Peck. It was a Robbins production. You hired Brian Peck as a clown on your TV show, Guys Like Us. And boy, are we starting to learn what guys like you are like. It's a den. Guys Like Us, the den. We're learning. We're figuring it out. And it's honestly gross. And how did you know that Brian Peck liked clowns? What's going on? Oh, right. Okay, yeah. I don't have as much time today, so I can't go into much detail. But I did want to say that Dan Schneider did hire Brian Peck. And he made him a clown, and he called him Happy Pants. And, you know, we also know about the boot camp that Dan Schneider had with dialogue coach Brian Peck. So let's just go into what was posted on this Facebook group. We can share my screen. So here is Didi DeStefano, and she posted on Crew Stories Facebook group, I worked with Brian Peck for several years and suspected what he was doing. I reported him to my first AD, several producers, the young actors on set, and their parents, and the showrunner. They all laughed at me and called me a drama queen because they loved Brian and refused to believe what I suspected. It put a wedge between me and my AD because he ceased trusting me and continued hiring Brian for shows and pilots. Brian was everyone's friend, but he knew I was suspicious of him when I joined the show at Nickelodeon and saw him there too, repeating his practices. I reported him yet again, and then I was never invited back to work on the show or any Nickelodeon productions. Drake Bell was a sweet, soft-spoken kid, and I didn't know well enough to confide in and warn, but Brian had already befriended him. Brian had also been scourging, I haven't even seen that word, the young male background actors for years because they were innocent and believed his promises of fame. There are many more victims of this monster that are afraid to speak up. I was admonished when I spoke. However, Brian was rewarded, right? Always rewarded, and continued to work, but not Didi, right? Even after he was released from prison, he was supported and hired. There are many monsters around us, and they'll never be caught because of enablers. Enablers that I used to be close to, but helped Brian when he got out of prison. I only wish some of the dozens of background actors that were destroyed by Brian would finally speak up. At Drake Bell, you are a hero, and I ache for the pain you've been through. Be strong and keep talking and healing. Can you believe this? I mean, unbelievable, right? Unfrickin' believable. This bystander did the right thing. They went to multiple people. They reported. And they laughed at her, called her a drama queen, and didn't do anything about it. This is what happens all the time. So when people on the outside are going, why didn't anyone speak up? People were. We can go full screen. People were doing just that, but they were getting fired and let go of and blacklisted. And while the predator, for example, just gets promoted, financially rewarded, moved around, protected, letters sent to defend them even when they're getting convicted and like admitted to their crimes. This is the reality. And this is the problem. So, you know, it really upsets me. And that's why, like, for example, like if we're here supporting survivors, like this is what I support all survivors. All survivors deserve to feel empowered. Power to survivors, right? And when I see, for example, people within like a 24 to 48 hour period starting to harass survivors, blame them, victim blame them. This is why survivors don't come forward. This is why survivors don't come forward, is because people enable their predators, literally actively, like writing letters, defending them. And then you got people harassing survivors. And it's honestly a horrible thing to witness. It's a horrible thing to witness. And that's why it's really important for all of us. The main thing before we go into all of this today, support survivors' stories. Support them coming forward about what happened to them. It's really important that we do, because survivors are constantly worried if people are going to actively support them. And if we don't, we send a message to everyone. We send a message to everyone. And so, and this is also, before we go into this, any names that are mentioned today, please don't go onto their platforms and harass them. This channel does not support harassment, bullying of any kind. We can have these very safe conversations here and talk about these topics. This is the place to do it. But I am very much against any type of harassment, bullying, etc. You know, this is the space that we've created to be able to talk about these things. We don't have to go over there. So I just want to say that before going in, because we're going to be mentioning a lot of names today. So where was I? Okay, so first and foremost, let's just take a look at this video that just came out. It's about 9 minutes long. It's the niece of Jason Handy. Wow, I have something in my eye. There's like dust in here and it just like went right into my eye. Jason Handy's niece came forward on TikTok to share her story about her uncle, Jason Handy. And so we're going to watch this really quickly.
Make this one big story time, and hopefully that'll answer everyone's questions in one video. So I was born in 2003, around the same time that my uncle went to prison for the first time. And growing up, I had a lot of like outer family and cousins that I never saw, that lived in LA, that I knew worked in like entertainment and Hollywood and stuff like that. And I knew that my uncle was one of those people, and he worked for Nickelodeon. And I thought that was so cool. And like one of my other cousins, she would bring me like these little papers from like the Miley Cyrus cast and stuff. And I was like, maybe my uncle one day, like he'll bring me stuff like that from like the Nickelodeon cast, and maybe I'll get to meet them or something, you know, like I was like 5 or 6. And every year for my birthday, I would also get these birthday cards from my uncle saying like, I love you, I miss you, and like he can't wait to meet me and my sister. And my mom never gave me these like until I was older and knew about everything. So I just grew up thinking he was really, really successful and just really busy. And when I was around 7 years old is when he got out. And obviously he didn't have anybody and he didn't have anything. So he moved to North Carolina because my grandparents chose to support him. Now, obviously I was like 7 years old, so I had no say in their decision. I have no idea why they decided to support him. My grandma has been sick for a really long time. So is my grandpa. And I think they're in a lot of denial. And yeah, but anyways. But they bought him a house, they gave him a car, and they bought him everything he needed to live on. And he...
You see this, though? When I'm listening to her, you know, the predators get protected. They just do. And this is why it's very important for people not to buy a car for this person, buy a house, you know, give them this new job. It's very important for us as a society to understand the message that sends to the predator, which is basically, I have a support system. I have a safe haven. I can do these things and be protected. And the more that happens, the more they feel like they're unstoppable and invincible, honestly. And they'll keep getting access to their prey. So let's continue.
I guess acted like he was back to a normal life, pretty much. And growing up around him was really weird. My first impression of him, like being really, really little, was that he seemed really, really angry. And simple things me and my sister would do, like playing too loud around him, you know, like if we would say words wrong, like he would always correct us, he would get angry at us. And so my grandparents told us that we weren't allowed to be alone around him because he had severe anger issues. So from the ages of like 7 to 11, his anger issues got better. And my grandparents would take us to his house where he had big TVs, workout equipment, movies, books, games, like brand new Xbox.
What?
And me and my sister loved it there. He had a giant playground in the yard. And we wanted
He
to play
had a giant playground in the yard and he doesn't have children. And he has Xbox and he has the den. He set up the den, basically, with the help of people around him. He didn't have to do a thing. He had people supporting him creating that den. That's why this video is really important, because it goes to show you how not only do people that aren't family members, you know, protect these predators, family members can too. It's so complicated for family to have to process these things, but they must, because there's a child now over there playing Xbox with a playground in the backyard, and the guy doesn't have children, you know, and they already know that he's a predator. Very alarming. All right, I'll continue.
Like all the time. And one day his house got broken into. They busted his front window and stole his TV. And so me and my sister were like, I don't really want to play there anymore. It's kind of scary. So a few weeks later, his car got broken into and all the windows got busted. And
people
my
knew.
grandparents and my mom told me that my uncle was gonna move in with my grandparents because, like, obviously his house wasn't safe. And I was like, yeah, like, that makes total sense.
So not saying this is okay, but I'm guessing that people were damaging property of his because they knew he was a PDF file, right? Not endorsing this at all. But I'm guessing that's kind of what she's trying to say here. And then the grandparents are like, let's bring him into our home where children are, because his place isn't safe. Wherever Jason Handy goes isn't safe. Honestly, wherever a predator goes isn't necessarily safe. Okay.
And at this point, my grandparents owned a business, so my uncle was helping with their business and working there. Obviously, he wasn't going to get a job anywhere else. And I want to add also that my grandparents' business, their office was just their house, which was just a few houses down the road from my childhood house, which is in this really small neighborhood. So anytime there was like anything going on, like cop cars or like arguments or anything, like me and my little nosy sister, like we're gonna run outside and see what's happening. So we're playing outside one day, like we're like 11 and 12, and we see a cop car like fly down the road, and they just kept going and going and going, and there was like sheriff cars, undercovers, and I was like, oh my god, like what's happening? And I see them line up outside of my grandparents' house, and you just see like people like ducking and running around my grandparents' house, like surrounding it. Like it was literally terrifying. So obviously me and my sister, like, we run inside and we tell my mom, and my mom is in the driveway, like, crying, calling my grandparents, and my grandpa answers and tells my mom, like, they're here, like, they're taking Jason. So
Again,
I see them walk him up the driveway and put him in the car, and everyone leaves, and me, my mom, and my sister all go down.
you know, that's also why it's very important for adults to explain things to kids. You know what I mean? I really do think it's very important to, because predators, PDF file predators, they're preying on the ignorance, the naivety, the innocence of a child. And so the more the kid doesn't know, the more they get access to them. And so it's really important for adults specifically to make sure there's ways to approach this. It's not like you explain all of, you know, but you must let the children know what's going on, and not letting them in the same room with a person like this with Xbox and the playground and this and that. You know, this is absolutely not okay, because predators are preying on the naivety. Wherever the weakness is, that's what they exploit. And so it's very important for us as a society to make sure that we are educating and informing people about, you know, what we know and how to protect people. Okay.
to my grandparents' house. So that's when they explained to me, like, my uncle doesn't have really bad anger issues. He wasn't at Nickelodeon, you know, until I was 7 or 8 years old. Like, he was in prison. And, like, you know, like a
I
brief
can't
summary
believe they
for-
said he was at Nickelodeon when he was a predator at Nickelodeon and he was actually in jail. That's unbelievable. These kids thought he was just at Nickelodeon, living the life. Unbelievable.
a 12-year-old of what he did. And, you know, obviously I'm like, what the fuck? And I don't want to go into detail about what he did this time, just because it's, like, obviously not my place. But, it was someone he was close to that trusted him with their kids, which obviously was a horrible decision. Just things online, stuff he had on his phone. Yeah. And you think it would stop there, but it doesn't, because since he has been in jail, he's been in like 3 or 4 different prisons. He's been moved around. He has compared me as the other black sheep of the family.
Oh no.
So from the ages of like 12 to like 15 or 16, when I realized I didn't have to talk to him anymore, he would send really long letters and call me and my sister, like, asking how we were and, like, how school and our interests, like, bands and shows and stuff, and, like, he would always try really hard to connect with me and, like, compare us because I was a little emo kid, so my family, who's very Christian and conservative, would exclude me. So he would call me the
Being emo and being a PDF file are two very different things. Nice try, Jason Handy. What conclusions are you drawing from that? I don't see them. I don't see them. An emo girl he's comparing himself to. Jason Handy, you're a PDF file. Legit, self-admitted. And you're trying to have a young girl feel like there's some type of, you're just a black sheep of the family? You're a PDF file. See how they do that, though? They're so manipulative, predators. God. It's this whole, like, and you're just like, wow. If you just look at it face value, you see exactly what he's doing. Downplaying what he is and trying to make it that he's just different. That people don't understand him and what he is doing. We understand it. We got it. We figured it out. You admitted it. And it's really not okay. You're a criminal. In honestly, one of the worst ways possible.
They're black sheep of the family. And once I had children, he started trying to put that bond onto them, and now he makes them gifts. So the most recent one was a bag he made for my newborn son. So if anyone has any suggestions
the camera turned
on
off?
what the fuck I should do with this,
Okay.
that would be great. And for those of you asking why I had to visit him, I was like 14 years old, and he was in a prison in Arizona, and I really wanted to go to the zoo in Arizona, and I wanted to go on a trip with my family, so that's why I went. And
Wow.
I genuinely did not think about wearing the white and black striped shirt.
Wow. Okay. So he, I'm pretty out of focus. I'm like, hello? Hello? I'm still here. So anyways, I mean, I think her video really showed a clear picture. The backgrounds. I think it really showed a clear picture of how also family enables this type of behavior. And I think it's really important for us to all understand that really being aware of enabling. And I think specifically it comes with financial reward. And I do think that's why, you know, SOs, for example, an employer has the right to say, I'm not hiring you because of your record. Because I think it is this fear around financially rewarding and allowing these people to gain access to victims. So that's how I feel about that. And she was very brave, obviously, to tell her story of her uncle, because that's a lot, honestly, to have to talk about that. So Disney is next. And also Francis Ford Coppola. Never thought Francis Ford Coppola would have anything to do with the Den. I mean, not that it's like super surprising because he's just another bro, honestly. But Francis Ford Coppola? So where do I begin? So I have to be out of here like in the next less than an hour. So I'm going to try to really consolidate this in the best way that I can. So Victor Salva was a director. Okay. So Victor Salva is a director, and he has done a few projects. One of them a short film that then became a full-length film called Clown House, which is so shocking to me when it comes to the pattern of these clowns. You know, so I think in the Eat Predators community that maybe we should start calling these individuals clowns. I think it, you know, predators, clowns, because they kind of all seem to connect. Clowns, predators. So Victor Salva made a film called Clown House, and before that, he abused a 12-year-old. And after that, he had his film like funded, produced, I think, by Francis Ford Coppola. And Francis Ford Coppola was a fan of his. And fast forward, Francis Ford Coppola ends up being a person who enabled Victor Salva, and we're going to break down why. Which is, you know, the other day I got asked in the podcast, what are legislative things I want to see change? And there's so much I always think about that I never know what to land on. And when I was walking out the door, my husband told me about this non-disclosure agreement that was hidden in Francis Ford Coppola's contract. And I've experienced that as well. And I realized that's it. I think I want to make it an actual law that there cannot be any type of broad non-disclosure agreements that are wrapped up in these contracts in general. A confidentiality about the creative project itself, like the script, sure, but about anything that happens between the crew members, the set environment, etc., should not be released. And so I realized that is something that I really, really, really want to eventually do, and I'm going to start working on that, to be quite honest with you. So, okay, where do we begin? Where do we begin? There's just so many of them. That's why I get so frustrated. Okay, here he is. This is Victor Salva. Victor Salva. This is him. This is actually his SO photograph. And he was hired by Disney. He was hired by Disney after he was a convicted PDF He was hired by Disney by the helps of Francis Ford Coppola. So this is what he looks like. I'm sure some people know or have learned about this person. He's kind of been on a lot of Reddit threads, and there has been a lot to say about him. So let's get into kind of, you know, where do I even start? Because I'm trying to think about how much time we have. Let's maybe listen first to what the survivor has to say about his experience with Victor Salva and Francis Ford Coppola, and how Francis Ford Coppola enabled Victor Salva and protected him. It's so sad. Okay. Let's watch it.
Now, tell me something. Take us through the steps of how Victor Salva was held accountable for you as a child.
Let's see. It was when he was arrested, it was a sting operation, first of all. And so after we finished up principal photography for Clown House, because of the cameras we used were literally the ones that George Lucas used for American Graffiti.
Wow.
And so they were really old, outdated cameras, and they were extremely loud. So every bit of sound on that film had to be dubbed over. And so
I got this.
it was basically a month of shooting and then a month of overdubs. And it was right in between, like right in the first couple days of doing the overdubs that the police did the sting operation.
All right, let's pull up the map then. Let's take a look at this. So here's Victor Salva. Here's Francis Ford Coppola. So Coppola, about the case. You have to remember, while this was a tragedy, that the difference in age between Victor and the boy was very small. Victor was practically a child himself. This is what Francis Ford Coppola said. And Salva was 29 years old and the boy was 12. I'm going to repeat it again for Francis Ford Coppola. He said Victor and the boy was the age difference between Victor and the boy was very small. I'm sorry, what's small about 12 and 29 years old? This is Francis Ford Coppola. And I'm guessing that, yeah, American Zoetrope was the production house that produced Clown House, which was Victor Salva's film. I guess this is also being edited in real time, which is amazing. So we're watching this whiteboard happen in real time. But so he produced Clown House, and within the contract for Clown House, Francis Ford Coppola, his production company, most likely put in there a non-disclosure agreement. And so when the victim came forward against Victor Salva, I get so triggered by this. I just hate explaining this stuff because it's so aggravating. It like really upsets me. Francis Ford Coppola ends up suing the family, the victim's family, for telling on Victor Salva that it was a breach of the non-disclosure agreement that a child, I guess, signed. And they sued the victim's family. So this is how involved Francis Coppola, honestly, what the fuck is his name? Coppola's involvement was when it came to Victor Salva. To the point where even down the line, Jeepers Creepers 1 and Jeepers Creepers 2 was produced by Francis Ford Coppola. What else did he say here? After Salva's release from prison, Coppola gave him $5,000 when MGM was nervous about hiring Salva to direct Jeepers Creepers. Coppola allegedly vouched for him. Here it is in 1988. Lewd acts with a child. I can't even say most of the stuff. It's just so bad. He becomes a registered SO. And this is where it gets kind of strange, because here's Disney, right? So Disney ends up hiring Victor, what's his name, Salva, for Powder. And this was after he was a convicted SO. But what's interesting about it, I don't know how many people here were part of the Friday night movie night where we are watching Open Secret. But it goes through The Den. And The Den was basically this precursor, or almost, it's like a precursor to Netflix, to be honest with you. It was a digital platform where film and projects were going to be released. And it was called The Den. And a lot of PDF file allegations have been up against the den. People that have financed it, people that were involved in the den, multiple allegations, and like, for example, Bryan Singer. And Bryan Singer is good friends with Brian Peck. And that's why I think Brian Peck is so protected. I'm going to tell you why I think Brian Peck is so protected. I think Brian Peck is so protected because it's not about Brian Peck. It's about what Brian Peck knows. And that's what it is with all of these people. We go, well, what's the big deal about Brian Peck? Or what's the big deal about Bryan Singer? Or what's the big deal about these guys? Why are they so protected? They're protected because once they're a part of this thing, if one of them snitches, if one of them goes down, they all go down. The den collapses. And that's why I actually think so many people are protecting predatory behavior. Because if they don't, the whole thing falls. They all start getting exposed. That's their worst nightmare, is that being exposed for what they are doing in secret. And so in Open Secret, we're learning a lot about the den. And it's so interesting because that's what we've been calling it. We've been calling it the Den of Iniquity ever since Will, or Ryder from Boy Meets World, called it that and said it wasn't the Den of Iniquity. Strangely enough, these accused PDF files, these alleged, convicted PDF files, made a company called The Den, where apparently, allegedly, they would have these jacuzzi pool parties where they would ABUSC young boys and got away with it and were protected. And you go, well, how does Disney play into this? Well, Disney plays into this because Victor Salva was hired by Disney for powder. And not only just that, the president of Walt Disney Television, David Neuman, who has accusations, by the way, of being a PDF file, was a main investor for the Den. And there's actually a lot of connections to Disney executives connecting to the Den. And thanks to Moa here, Moa has really been showing the connections. And they're honestly very terrifying and really upset me. Like, I really don't even like talking about it because it, as a survivor, just really triggers me that there's this many easy connections to kind of make and see how they're being protected and how, you know, they're getting away with this type of behavior. So I guess let's go back to what the survivor of Victor Salva has to say here, and now that we have a little bit of a backstory about it all.
Away from his house, and then, I mean, they found, you know, like pretty much a den, just videotapes upon videotapes and photo albums full of like boys modeling for, you know, Macy's or Sears, plus pictures of countless little boys, and all sorts of just really, really disgusting stuff was found, and Victor admitted to all of it. He admitted to all of it until there was an attorney involved. And
just like Brian Peck also recorded, admitted to it.
Coppola is where the attorney came in. Like, that's where the money came from for the attorney, for Victor's attorney was. So Coppola gets him this really, you know, expensive lawyer, and then it turns into where he, you know, because the police already had on file.
Francis Ford Coppola hired a good lawyer for a PDF file. Someone who admitted they were a PDF file. Can you believe this? Francis, I want this to be shared. Francis Ford Coppola defended publicly a PDF file. Quoted, Los Angeles Times, quoted, protecting a PDF file. Financially rewarded this person who was convicted. Stood behind him for many, many years. This is Hollywood in a nutshell. And then everyone's like, oh, Francis Ford Coppola, what a genius. A genius? What genius protects and supports a PDF file? That doesn't sound like a genius to me. Does it? I'm sorry. All right, let's continue.
On record, him admitting to all these things, because he was arrested on 11 counts of child, including oral on a child under 14, you know, a child under 14, videotaping these things. Like, I mean, and then, you know, several charges that had to do with the production of Clown House and being during that production. So he, of course, retracts everything, and the lawyers get him to shut his mouth and, you know, stop making their jobs harder. And eventually what happened was...
I just want to make sure everyone can hear this. Just say 1 if the volume is good, 2 if the volume is too low for you.
At some point, Coppola filed a lawsuit against my family for $5 million for some brief...
Francis Ford... Oh, sorry, guys. I'm really losing it today. I think it's been like a lot of weeks for me dealing with these predators, or years. Francis Ford Coppola sued the victim's family for $5 million. I'm sorry. What? I'm sorry. What? And he just walks around Hollywood because he belongs. He's guys like us, you know? Guys like them. He fits right in Hollywood. You see the trend of it? They're all the same. You got the predators, you got the people protecting them. And then it's almost questionable why they're protecting them, but that's another story. But you got the enablers, you got the financial reward, and you got the predators. How's anything gonna change? And yeah, Roman Polanski too. Yep, there's a trend. This is the den. Welcome to the den.
Contract or something, and my lawyer called my parents one day and said, you know, the appointment we had with Victor's attorneys it's been rescheduled. It's been pushed till tomorrow. So you guys don't need to come in today. And so we stayed home, and my attorney actually went down and met with Victor's lawyers and signed wrote up a plea bargain and had it signed. And the plea bargain dropped the 6 most severe charges, the ones that had to do with the production of Clown House and he was convicted on 5, the 5 least severe charges, or signed a plea bargain of that, and was sentenced 3 years. And he was in jail for a short time when he was first arrested, but after that, he didn't go to prison. He never saw another jail cell. He
spent 15 months out of a 3-year sentence. Thanks to fucking Coppola. And you know what, Coppola? You know what I think you did? My opinion, IMO, in my opinion, I think you were punishing the victim. Why else would you do such a thing? And why do you have like a non-disclosure agreement in your little production contracts? The fact that that was in there makes me kind of think maybe like you knew Victor was like this. That's what kind of freaks me out a little bit. Is why is something like that included in a contract when it comes to a child, I mean. What did you know about Victor? How close were you with Victor? Close enough to hire a very fancy lawyer to protect him, where he only got 15 months out of a 3-year sentence, where you publicly victim blamed him in the press, saying that there wasn't that big of an age difference, an age gap between Victor Salva and his victim, 12 and 29. And I don't care what the age gap was, by the way. I don't care what the age gap was. He was a child And Victor Salva was an adult. And not only was he an adult and the victim a child, it was someone he hired and employed, was supposed to make everyone feel safe on that set. And that's not what he did at all. And you were shameless, Coppola. Shameless. To the point where even years later, you legit produced Jeepers Creepers 1 and 2? Wow. Look at how Victor Salva was able to skate on through Hollywood. Coppola. So sad. And Coppola's not the only person like this. This is just a pattern that keeps showing up in this industry over and over again. All right, let's go.
A treatment facility in Napa.
Oh,
and
what a
did
retreat.
15
How
months.
lovely.
Napa.
Right. Yeah, he did 15 months.
So, I'm
And basically
sorry.
had movie deals waiting
I'm
for him.
sorry,
You know,
too.
like it was like, warm reception when he got out of his treatment and was right back to work, shortly thereafter.
So Francis Ford Coppola
Yeah.
stepped in to not only help him, but then he sued you.
Yes.
Yes.
What a
It was
slime bag. Are you kidding me?
What a slime bag.
This notable, legendary Hollywood director stepped in to not only throw sand in your face, but to help someone that had been arrested on unspeakable charges.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Unfreaking
Once
believable.
once the film was, because I still had to go and do all the overdubs. So after he was arrested, so I still had a month's worth of work at Coppola's house every single day for 8 or 9 hours every day for a month. Which time I was like blackballed, told I'd never work in the industry again, and
Sure.
Of course.
like all sorts of stuff, and yeah, it was incredible.
Yeah, incredible. It's honestly despicable what Coppola did. And let's not forget, it ain't just Coppola. It's Disney too. Couple years later, 3 years later, not even, Disney is hiring him for Powder. You know what I mean? And then you're like, okay, so like who's also the president of, Walt Disney Television? Oh, David Neuman, the investor of the Den, who was accused of being at those jacuzzi pool parties with boys. It's all very connected. And Coppola is just an example of the type of people that bloom in this industry instead of rot. Just another example, honestly. So, okay, I do want to show something that was really badass, and I hope that it is inspiring to survivors everywhere. So, I will do that at the end. I just want to get through, because I don't want to miss anything, and then I'll go through all of the super chats. I'm sorry, guys. I don't have that much time today, so I'm like cramping this all in. So one really important thing to note, and this was so incredible, I think it was Moa who found this, it was Moa who found this. This survivor of Victor Salva, when the movie Powder was backed by Disney and promoted by Coppola, and this survivor wasn't able to work in the industry again, this brave survivor went in front of the movie release and protested it with just him and a few friends. And I just want to show this image. So let's show it. This is the victim. His name is Nathan Winters. And if you see here, he has a pretty sick, amazing, protest sign. This was the short film that he was ABUSED by Victor Salva on. And I think, what is it? Something in the Basement, written and directed by Victor Salva. Then his second film was Clown House, written and directed by Victor Salva. And then he made a statement here by saying my MOLEST, written and directed by Victor Salva. Disney didn't give a shit. Disney didn't care. And that was mentioned in Los Angeles Times. I'm pretty sure, let's look. I mean, he was protesting. People knew that he was doing that. And here's an article too, which maybe I'll post it in the community so that, and we can also pick up on where I'm kind of leaving off today. Before I leave, I still have a little bit to go, but we'll finish up a lot of this because I think it's really important for all of us to look at, and I'll put it in the community so that we can all see this. But he was so brave to go protest alone with just a few friends. And I did that too. And, sometimes you think like, am I the only one who's like, why isn't anyone else doing this? They are. Survivors have been doing this, but no one's been paying attention. And instead, suing and harassing and bullying the survivors. And silencing them and writing letters to defend their predators. Right? And there was something pretty upsetting for me that I have to say. Like, I saw somebody, who has been recently just straight up harassing me. Nonstop harassing me and enabling my stalker, who I have an RO against, and saying that they're against harassment of survivors or supporting survivors. And so you even have people like that, and it really upsets me, which is why I really, really want to say this here. Don't harass anyone. Don't harass any survivors. Look at what we were going through today. How much a survivor has to go through to find any type of justice. I mean, it is a nightmare what survivors have to go through, especially when they're going up against these really powerful individuals. Really powerful individuals. They go through so much. And the last thing that we want to do is harass them. It's the last thing that we want to do. So I do want to show, though, this Disney honcho sued again by SA accuser in bizarre new case. So I guess this individual who's an open secret, which, by the way, I can't wait to see everyone again Friday and collectively all hold space to watch the rest of Open Secret because it was so heartbreaking. And for those who are members and that were there for the Open Secret movie night, this person, Michael Egan, was in the documentary. And this was about the den. And so, he sued Neuman, and basically Neuman was able to say, you made this declaration when you were younger, saying that nothing happened. But then Michael Egan, basically strikes back at Neuman and talks about how Neuman pressured him to make this declaration after all of these other brave survivors came forward about Neuman. And he got pressured into signing this declaration. And so he refiled. But I'm very curious about what's happening with that lawsuit. I can't find anything when it comes to where it's at, if there was a settlement. You know, I haven't been able to. So if anyone can go and email epredators@gmail.com or go on to Reddit, and if you see anything that has been settled or where this lawsuit has gone, because it's kind of vanished and it's kind of scary. You know, and I do want to remind everyone that there's multiple connections when it comes to Disney and the Den. The Den that is an open secret, and the Den of Hollywood, which seems to be a lot of these alleged, convicted PDF files that are in high positions of power. ABUSING. Children, getting away with it, being protected, and even Ben Savage. You know Ben Savage from Boy Meets World? We saw him in the first half of the Open Secret movie, where he literally gets the slap, like, you know, Dan Schneider on, you know, his bottom by a man who started the Den and has been accused of being a PDF file and having these jacuzzi parties. Great. Okay, great. I won't be able to. Please send it, and then next week, or maybe even on Friday when we're watching the Open Secret together, the second half of it, at the end, we can maybe go into a little bit more about it and then pick it up also next week. But these men have been getting away with this for a very long time. And it seems like the way they've been getting away with it is being protected by Walt Disney, being protected by someone like Francis Ford Coppola, all these people that have a bunch of money to lend and a voice that's powerful enough to try and mend the wrongs, the abuse that these individuals have committed. And it's terrifying. No survivor should have to go out there alone with a few friends to protest a convicted PDF file. When I was 6 months pregnant, I also protested my predator. And you can see that video pinned on my Instagram. And I had to watch all these people listen to what happened to me as I said it on a megaphone, and they just walked right past me. And that's the reality. Is even when you share the story, people just walk right past you. Today, that wasn't that long ago. This wasn't the early 2000s or the late 90s. This was last year. And this is what survivors are dealing with regularly. And I'm starting, thanks to MOA, and also my own like personal experiences with this industry, obviously, realizing how I think Disney is next. Because there are so many different individuals that were part of literally the Den, that's an open secret. Either investing into it, a part of it, knew someone. And let's not forget, Bryan Singer was part of the Den. And Bryan Singer's really good friend is Brian Peck. And it's so interesting. What I actually really appreciate about this Den web, I don't know what to call it, Den web kind of, is that when you look at it, you know, you really can just pick one person and you can start to connect where it's all going. You know, one person, I don't believe, coincidentally connects to another PDF file or another alleged predator or another enabler. It's not a coincidence that it's easy to connect quickly these people, these institutions, I really don't believe that it is a coincidence. It's very clear as day, you know, what this all means. And that's because these people are deeply, deeply connected and protecting one another. I mean, it says here, I pled guilty to a terrible crime, and I spent the rest of my life trying to make up for it. For almost 20 years, I've been involved with helping others. I've been in therapy and I've made movies. But I paid my debt to society and apologized to the young man. And all I can hope is that people will give me a chance to redeem myself. Within literally 3 years, Victor Salva, you got a movie deal with a kid's company, Disney. And the victim of yours protested it. But meanwhile, here he is saying, oh, I apologized to the victim. I've spent the rest of my life trying to make up for it. You know what the victim has to deal with for the rest of their life? Lifelong trauma. The memories of what you did. But meanwhile, we're always supposed to feel super, super bad for what the predator did, like their remorse. And you don't even know. Honestly, I'm very skeptical of predators because that's their whole thing, is gaining trust again to gain more access to victims. And so in my opinion, it's very hard to like trust predatory behavior because usually they're always trying to figure out how to gain trust again. And so when I hear that, it really puts me off because it feels like a clear sign of a predator, you know, trying to get remorse, get support, get sympathy, and be able to keep creating art. So signing off out of this, I do want to just play what the clown house looked like. And so apparently Victor Salva had a thing for monsters. He had sympathy for monsters. He, I guess, was quoted a bunch of times saying that he, you know, felt the most interesting character in a film was the monster. And he wanted to know what they were thinking and feeling, probably because he's a monster himself. And so I want to show this clown house trailer to take a look. I can't hear you, sorry. Oh, theater mode. God, I couldn't even hear that. No.
The clowns Randy, they're here.
I'm pretty sure that's the victim, by the way. That's the young boy. That's the victim. Oh my God, this clown hand. What is with these convicted PDF files with clowns? What is this?
The darkest of dark, though the flesh is young and the hearts are strong, precious life cannot be all. Something very soon is cutting through your lifeline.
Also, what the fuck did Coppola like about this film? This film's shit also, by the way. I'm sorry, is that just me? Like, this film is not like it's not even like a Coppola film. You know what I mean? Like, this is the film he was like, fine. Like, what does Coppola have to hide? I'm sorry, but it's kind of weird. Like, this is just like a B movie. You know what I mean? Why does he like this guy so much? Why did he put in his contract that non-disclosure agreement? I'm sorry, Coppola is giving me the red flags waving because this film ain't good. Maybe the trailer is not as good as the film. Doubt it. This looks like a shitty B movie. And he's trying to make Victor Salva some type of like artist. Apparently also Coppola said that all of this would make Victor Salva a better artist, like an artist. Barring being an SO, a child SO, make him a better artist. This is a shit film, Victor. Oh!
You never know what they really are.
The circus can be the main event for many a young boy.
Oh!
But for Casey, all this clowning around is...
Casey Gacy? You guys picked that up? Sorry, I thought I heard Gacy, but then I saw the CC and it said Casey. But it rhymes with Gacy. And do you hear him saying, like, what did he say there? The circus can be the main event for many. It's like, this is the den. It's like the circus is an example of the den. This.
You never know what they really are.
You never know what they really are. This music.
The circus can be the main event for many a young boy. But for Casey, all this clowning around is about to come to an end. Clown House. Now available on video
my God, that
cassette.
thing is terrifying, though. Okay. All right. This is going to be continued because I obviously have to go and do this thing. Really, I really want to, as a closing, obviously this was triggering. And so please make sure that after this episode that you're taking care of yourself. And, you know, however it is that you take care of yourself, petting an animal, because this is a lot of information. And even for me, having to sit here and explain this all, it is a lot for me as well and triggering. And this is why, though, it's so important, is because we must start understanding that this is an institutional failure and corruption issue. This isn't just a predator issue. This isn't just a rotten apple issue. This is institutions covering up, and just people, enablers, covering up for predators and advocating for them and giving them access to more and more victims. And I do want to say thank you to Moa and just take a look at a little bit of these super chats before. Boop, boop, boop. Oh, I can go right here. I forgot. Let's see. Oh no, it's here. Okay, let's see. So gross. Salva, ABUSED, Winters on the set of Coppola Fund. Let's not forget how Hollywood has protected Roman Polanski too. There's a trend. Yes, there is. And I heard that Roman Polanski is currently being sued. Richard Davenport said, let's not forget about how Hollywood was protected by Roman Polanski. Yeah, I mean, and he's also being currently sued, I'm pretty positive, for this. And this is the trend. Moa, you about to just grass to send me, you/not a bot, just grass to send me stuff for map?
That's like a.
What does that mean?
That's sort of like a Reddit page or something.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait, sorry, Mo. I was like, I do not know what that is. The summer 9890. I'm a new ally. I'm shocked that these PDF files are still out there living their lives. Things need to change relating to kids on television. Yes, pasta is good. Power to survivors. We are the change. Yes, we are. Astro Girl 37, enjoy your birthday. Oh yeah, that's right. I'm gonna be live tomorrow. So if you're a fellow Aries, let's do something. I'm gonna do something relaxing tomorrow with the community for a little bit. And so if you're an Aries and you want to join the stream, please join. Josh, happy birthday, Alexa. Barbara, welcome to the Munchies. Moa, hi Lucy, my friend, also watching live. The Saturday Morning Skeptic, I emailed you a large spreadsheet. I continue to update. FYI, my name is your name. Wait, we're both Alexa? Okay, I will definitely check that out. Thank you all for being here. God, it's so hot in the studio today. I'm literally dripping. Thank you all so much for being here. And we'll continue the Den web next week. And Friday, just a reminder, the dinner party tier and up, we will be watching The Open Secret. and it's the last half of it. And so I don't even want to say look forward, but I do look forward to seeing the community and collectively holding space to watch it. It is a very important documentary when it comes to what they were able to expose and how brave those survivors were. And I also want to give a huge shout out to all of the incredible people out there that have been supporting the channel by liking it and subscribing, and also all of the people that bought the Nickelodeon t-shirts. You guys are all so amazing. Thank you for supporting all of us that were in Quiet on Set and that bravely told our stories just to change the world, just to change the future. And so I want to give a shout out to everyone. Thank you so much for getting those t-shirts and supporting us all. And I will see you all tomorrow. Thank you, Patreon members. And they're about to come up right now, actually. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.